Smokey the Bear, the Dare Lion, Nookie Man. These are just some of the iconic mascots that stand the test of time. They're iconic, memorable, and let's be honest, make a ton of money. So naturally, a bunch of other nonprofits wanted to get in on that sweet, sweet mascot money. And one rabbi had the brilliant idea to create a character that teaches Jewish children lessons not only about their religion, but also about their cultural heritage. That being the culture of Lakewood, New Jersey, of course. What he came up with was this. Hey cuties, Kenchi here, back with another dose of sweet Islam. Today we're diving into Fiveish, the official mascot of Oorah and the first ever recorded cash sona. We'll cover his rise, fall, and a messy incident that happened during a trip to Israel. Quick disclaimer. You know a video's gonna be good when my edgelord ass needs to do a disclaimer. But I feel like I should point out that in this video, I might touch on some pretty touchy subjects, but I assure you, I'm a good little YouTuber. You see, this is really a video about a very ill-advised mascot and a scam that would put Tony Soprano to shame. But as a member of the 13th tribe, I feel like I'm obligated to make this. And while I was indeed radicalized by the combined forces of white girls with septum piercings and Mexican girls that look Chinese for some reason, I'm still very much down with the tribe. So sit back, grab your daki, and let's talk about how a guy in a $5 bill costume managed to spark a massive charity scam, a small riot in Israel, countless children receiving death threats, and possibly the second loss of my channel. This is gonna be fun. Like and subscribe! So Oorah is this big Jewish nonprofit out of Lakewood, New Jersey, founded by Rabbi Chaim Mintz in the 70s after having a vision sent to him in a dream about Abigail Shapiro's rockin' milk tanks. After that moment, he knew he had to defend the faith at all costs. On paper, they do normal nonprofit stuff like outreach, alleged insurance fraud, summer camps, alleged trafficking, Torah classes, and all the other wholesome stuff. And like every other nonprofit, their first objective was to actually make a profit. So Oorah holds these regular fundraisers. I don't know if fundraiser is the legal term for it, all things considered, but that's what they call it, so let's go with that. Usually they're promoted with annoying jingles and skits that could double as torture methods. And after setting the Jewish people back 500 years, they decided that what they really needed was a mascot. And here's where things started getting a little occult. You see, officially, Fiveish exists because Oorah wanted to put their logo on actual $5 bills for promotion. And understandably, the government wasn't okay with that, because that's illegal. So instead of taking the L, they abandoned Yahweh and summoned a $5 bill golem. According to ancient texts found in the Hebrew homeland of Montauk, New York, Fiveish's original form was the YapDollar, a Canaanite demon of greed that was said to protect his people during times of strife. One thing led to another, the YapDollar got synchronized into Jehovah, who in reality is a space dragon who eats your prayers, and that's why I live in a bunker in the woods awaiting the return of the true Messiah. It's a whole thing. Don't worry about it. Anyway, the YapDollar was finally released to the world through a cursed Oorah video unveiling their new mascot. And I shit you not, it's literally a cursed Oorah video of actual rabbis in a boardroom trying to figure out how to market this thing without looking like a cult. And that's one of the most insane parts about this whole thing. Everything about Fiveish and Oorah is like if the smelliest shardy troll managed to somehow leave his goon den long enough to create the greatest piece of anti-Semitism since Ethan Klein's Weird Turkey Gizzard. Believing they found the gem to end all coal, Oorah planned on creating a multimedia empire with Fiveish. Basically, they tried to do for Fiveish what Cumtown did for Adam, except they failed. Spectacularly. Granted, they were, allegedly, moving undocumented immigrants like Trump, so they could definitely do some wild shit. And speaking of wild shit, Oorah figured that before they could conquer Hollywood, they had to start small. And their first shot at mainstream glory was my new favorite form of nightmare fuel, known as Fiveish and Friends. In 2013, Oorah released a conceptual pilot for a Fiveish children's show. You can tell they poured their heart and soul into this, and totally didn't just film the whole thing in a single afternoon before somebody called the cops about a man in a giant fucking money costume terrorizing a Jewish neighborhood. In the show, Fiveish is basically an evil spirit haunting some New Jersey McMansion. He torments the adults into insanity and forces the kids to sing terrible, terrible songs for hours on end. It's the Shabbos special, and Fiveish literally opens the episode by threatening an elected official.
Well, why don't you just go remind him who put him in office? Okay. All right, let me check the numbers.
Fiveish!
Well,
Fiveish!
I'll check the numbers.
Fiveish!
Very subtle, Fiveish. So Fiveish tells the children that they must prepare a Shabbos feast before he does his own Passover. So what even is Shabbos? So after creating the heaven and earth, Jehovah decreed that the seventh day shall be the day of rest, along with a whole bunch of other commandments. It's basically the Jewish Sabbath. And it's also the reason why your grandma dragged you to church every Sunday, and the moment you decided God isn't real, and now you're a moderator on r/atheism. Honestly, the pilot has everything. It has a strange man chasing children around in a playground, a clown who sings songs about kids going to hell, and of course, some sweet Abrahamic knowledge.
He was very good now. No good.
Anyway, I kinda get why they would choose a $5 bill. It ties in their whole $5 donation gimmick, but come on, bro. This is fucking insane. This is like if I made a kid's show about a giant bucket of fried chicken, teaching children how to avoid paying child support. I almost did make that show, by the way. I had to cut it because this video was already taking too long anyway, but let me know if you want to see that though in the comments. So throughout the episode, Fiveish has been hyping up the Shabbos feast and telling the kids that their Shabbos feast would be used to summon an unknowable entity.
Shalmi Kegel, the Kishkin, the Apsik, and the Galen, and the overnight potato Kegel, and the Gefefferte Kegel, and the Pacha, and the crispy, crunchy grievance.
This is the face of a kid who's getting blasted by some real Phoenician knowledge. And just when you think it can't get any stranger, they summoned Fiveish's grandmother from hell, who's literally a disembodied Fiveish arm. You can literally see the guy behind the door. And Fiveish also mentions that another surprise guest is coming, the Shabbos Queen. It's apparently a holdover from some old pagan tradition where they personify the Sabbath as a bride or queen of Jehovah. So yeah, the pilot literally ends with a demonic summoning. Amazing. So you'd think after shitting out that live action pilot, which I'm pretty sure actually summoned a Syrian ghost, Oorah would have learned their lesson. But no, instead they doubled down. You see, Oorah does this series of specials called the Shmorg series, and in Shmorg 6, they decided to make their big foray into an animated Fiveish movie. So I started digging for this absolute gem, and I found a sketchy website that claims to have the full movie. And judging by the comments, one of which is definitely not high on a burner account, it looked like I was actually in for a good time. I mean, Oorah would never lie. Oh. Fueled with determination to finally get shmorged, I kept digging. And that's when I stumbled across Shmorg 7 on Oorah's actual YouTube channel. And what do you know? It had an animated Fiveish segment. So immediately I can tell you that they really put those unpaid migrant workers to good use with this one. So the movie starts when a group of 3 lads come to Fiveish's house, looking for a good time. I feel like I've seen this somewhere before. They come to Fiveish asking for help with their mishvah, or whatever the hell that means. Honestly, just looking at Fiveish gave me psychic damage, so I couldn't keep up. I should also point out that this video gave me some really cool videos on my recommended. Anyway, Fiveish then proceeds to creep on the kids by saying some really sus shit.
All of you are great yeshiva boys who will get into every and any yeshiva in the world. As long as you don't tell them you're on my story tape.
So while he's getting his baby oil ready, he proceeds to tell the kids a beautiful story about Jewish resilience. No, actually he just tells them about a time he went to the airport. And immediately, we see some very concerning shit.
You forgot that you're changed!
Change? What do you mean changed? I need a change? Well, I mean, everybody could use a little bit of change. I'm not saying that, but I mean, how much do I really need to?
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
Anyway, Fiveish gets harassed by a TSA agent because he was too locked in. Tweaking government wage slave versus locked-in sovereign citizen. Oh, and we also meet a character that is somehow more offensive than Fiveish.
The Schwame, the Kegel, and the Arge Ile, and the Gewaltige, the Kitschke mit the...
He immediately gets detained because they suspect him of having a bomb. Then we go into this fucked up scene where Fiveish looks directly at the camera while this one dude screams directly in his ear like a demon. It was at this point I was fully convinced the Shabbos Queen came out of my monitor to kill me. And then the plane crashes because it's being piloted by a Fiveish, and it crashes into the worst possible thing a Fiveish could ever face. An island full of Christians. Vor-loving Christians.
Make sure there is plenty to eat. I am famished. In fact, so famished am I that I can even eat you.
Oorah is canon in the Fiveish universe. I hate this movie so much. It's actually killing me. I'll just speed run through this. The Fiveishes crash. There were no human survivors, by the way. They immediately run into the Christians and then sing a song about how Jesus wasn't the Messiah. Then a stretched out Lord Farquaad shows up to sing his shitty song, except his mouth isn't even synced up. And then Fiveish sings a song that converts the savages to the true faith. But don't worry, the IDF shows up at the end and saves everyone. Seriously, they get airlifted out because apparently the Mascot was tracking them.
See, the way we find you is from her cell phone. She never turned it off. We got the Mossad to track it, and we found you.
Fuck this movie.
Now get it, Root. I am very good with predictions, okay? I don't know if you know that about me. I am an excellent predictor. I am a prognosticator par excellence. I can predict anything. In 2016, there will be elections in America. That's not my prediction. That's a fact. But you know which party is going to win? Achashverosh's party. And you know why Achashverosh will win?
Out of work and destitute, Fiveish turned to stand-up comedy.
And President Achashverosh will get so drunk, he won't be able to tell the difference between Osama and Barack Obama.
Moses Christ, that was terrible. Bro bombed harder than me in front of the White House. But he did pave the way for future Jewish comedy legends like Adam Friedland and Cat Williams. But eventually, all that touring and his rock and roll lifestyle took a toll. Fiveish went to the doctor for a checkup, and the results were grim. The doctor told him he was dying of terminal inflation. If you want to know more, look up Fiveish inflation. The doctor recommended he go to Israel for some rest and relaxation. Just go on one last birthright trip before the end. So Fiveish packs his bags, heads to Israel, sees the sights, rubs mud in his face, but then tragedy struck. Oorah posted the footage themselves, and I will warn you, it's very disturbing. Here we see Fiveish getting chased and brutally beaten in Israel, with Oorah posting on YouTube to squeeze out an extra few views from the same demon they chewed up and spit out. Another victim of the Hollywood machine. Okay, I'm just gonna address the elephant in the room. This is also fucking insane. This is probably one of the most insane things I've ever seen in my entire fucking life. YouTube is definitely deleting me again after this shit. And so, Fiveish's journey came to an end. From a humble $5 bill, to a failed mascot, to a martyr. But you see, the internet wasn't quite done with Fiveish yet. That was terrible, holy shit.
Hello, my dears. Today we're making banchi jinjangu. It's a convenient hot dish for lazy people and people who like to eat. When cooking this meal, you want to make sure to use scissors when making this meal to make it as messy and unappealing as possible. How on God's green earth are you gonna cut tomatoes like that? Oh, это какая-то ерунда. Зачем кому-то это делать? Hada гра mutlak. Anyways. That's his sao at sao hao na tau kao tau. I think it says somewhere in the Thetherapa commandments, which was bestowed upon us by the great creator, thou shalt not fucking use scissors to cut your vegetables. But show matapo, but hey, what's a wati? Oops, my bad. Yeah, I think I'm done here.
In 2024, a now deleted Chinese TikTok user uploaded a video of the character Fiveish with a super corrupted AI voice, mumbling broken Google Translate English over random Chinese clips. There's just something beautiful about foreign brain rot. The algorithms loved it. TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, all of them were possessed by the spirit of Fiveish. And overnight, Fiveish was reborn as a meme, and it went insanely viral, insanely fast. Fast forward to August of 2024, where the official YapDollar account was made. Created by Instagram user and meme page admin Emma Farrow, who was sick of his original YapDollar post saying flagged and nuked by Instagram's AI moderation. So he figured he would just make an account dedicated to Fiveish and spread the gospel. And it worked, achieving insane growth and gaining almost 300,000 followers just 4 days. Everything was going great until Farrow awoke to a shocking revelation. His entire YapDollar account was gone. And you would think it was Oorah itself being shitty. I mean, from what we've seen so far, and what we'll see in the next chapter, you wouldn't really put it past them. But no, the real villain here was one of the other early YapDollar shitposters, a TikTok user named, what the fuck? Prognos Pogody? You see, Prognos had been pushing his own YapDollar edits, except his weren't funny. They're basically just boomer tier conspiracy rants tacked on to a dancing $5 bill. They were actual coal. And then along comes Pharaoh, whose goofy edits blow up way bigger, and then Prognos is left tilted and completely chimping out. So he made a bunch of accounts to mass report YapDollar and spread misinformation online. He made these super butthurt posts claiming that he was the original YapDollar and how his rendition is the real one, and other YapDollar bad, etc, etc. But then, he did the most pathetic thing you can ever do online. He cried on Reddit. Never cry on Reddit. As you can see on the post, he also snitched super hard to Oorah too. And once you know it, Oorah actually stepped in. They didn't just nuke Pharaoh's account, they nuked Prognos's too. And just like that, it was the end of an era. Brought about by some random dude's chimp out. But that's just the meme side of Fiveish. You see, I've been softening you up with brain rot and cringe, but if you really want to see how deep this rabbit hole goes, we've got to talk about Oorah themselves. And if you thought Fiveish was wild, you ain't seen nothing yet. Xiao Hung Shu.
Cars for kids, KARS Cars for kids, 1877 Cars for kids, donate your car today.
What you just heard was the infamous Cars for Kids jingle, a sound that I guarantee the CIA uses for psychological warfare. It was so bad that people literally sent death threats over this. And the craziest part? That annoying little tune is directly tied to Oorah. So Cars for Kids raised millions of dollars nationwide. The idea was for unsuspecting donors, to call the charity and donate their old cars, probably thinking that the cars would go to some huge Mad Max death race for the kids. What the charity does instead is just sell the cars and use the money to help marginalized children, or so they say. In reality, the money didn't go to kids, or cars, and not even tiny little football pads with spikes on them. Apparently, they funneled 90% of their funds straight back to Oorah. Charity watchdogs like Charity Navigator and Charity Watch both gave them terrible ratings. Nonprofit Quarterly straight up called them a self-serving, self-dealing mess. And it gets better. The Minnesota Attorney General straight up accused them of misleading donors because the whole thing reeked of money laundering. And speaking of money laundering, Oorah themselves run these insane Oorah-thon fundraisers every year. Now, they call it a charity auction, but it's probably just lawyer speak so the feds don't show up at their door. Because what it actually looks like is a massive money laundering raffle. You see, most raffles give out like gift baskets, maybe a TV, but at the Oorah-thon, you can win straight up cash prizes. Large cash prizes. In fact, here's some of the prizes the lucky donors won in the last Oorah-thon. $23,000 cash, $100,000 cash, 6 tickets to Israel, Fiveish cash, which is $5,555, Jesus Christ, I can't speak, $5,555,000 cash. And of course, the monkey. It's also worth noting that all the winners were located in the New Jersey, New York areas, with a few exceptions being in straight up Israel. Very slick, Oorah. You almost tricked the feds. So let's talk about real numbers so you can get an idea of what we're dealing with here. So in 2024, Oorah pulled in about $48 million in revenue and spent around $39 million, and ended the year with a little over $8 million in net income. That left them with $209 million in assets, and 84% of that revenue was straight up donations. And then we look at 2023, and they actually lost about 2.7 mil, but still had nearly 200 million in assets. And the years before were even bigger, with $22 million in profit in 2020, and a wild $49 million in profit in 2021. Their assets basically doubled in a few years, going to God knows where. Compared to something like Harvard, where these sorts of finances aren't unheard of, it's definitely weird for a supposed nonprofit that literally nobody's ever heard of until Cumtown talked about them. And here's where it gets even messier. So Oorah is based in Lakewood, New Jersey, a heavily Orthodox community that economically sits right above the poverty baseline. Orthodox families are often large, and poverty rates in the community are higher than average. But at the same time, people are constantly funneling money into institutions like Oorah. To put it in perspective, based on their income reports, Oorah spends the equivalent of about 25% of Lakewood's entire city budget. Compare that to other organizations like the Salvation Army, Oorah gives back way less to the broader community, only about 13% by some estimates. A lot of Oorah's expenses seem to cycle back into Lakewood itself, usually by funding private religious schools that pull students and money away from the public system. The Mintz family essentially unlocked a free money glitch. The community donates to Oorah, Oorah funds Orthodox schools, and public services, like public schools, get gutted, until all that's left for the people to turn to for anything is Oorah. And the school system is especially gutted. According to 2024 test scores, 60% of Lakewood students can't read at grade level, 75% can't do math at grade level, and the district's graduation rate is only 82%, way below the state average. And that's insane. Have you ever met somebody from Jersey? They'll give you a diploma just for showing up. Meanwhile, the district is spending an insane $65,000 per student per year, not only on classroom stuff, but on everything else they're forced to cover, because the private system is siphoning off resources. All this madness is being bankrolled by otherwise normal people across the country, who have no idea what Oorah is actually doing with their money. And if all that wasn't insane enough, here are just a few bonus chapters in the Oorah saga. In 2007, ICE literally raided one of their camps and arrested 31 undocumented workers who were working under a subcontractor. Oorah's defense was saying they're from upstate. Classic. Then in 2010, their camp website got hacked by a group calling themselves the Turkish International Muslim Hackers. They left a message in Turkish saying to basically shut down your system and redirected the link to a Palestinian activist site. It must have been easy to do too, considering Oorah's entire IT team was probably just one very confused Guatemalan guy. And did you know you can actually talk to the guy behind it all? Oorah hosts a weekly Zoom call every Tuesday where you can chat with Haim himself. Naturally, I tried to join. I was planning on asking him hard-hitting questions like, where's the money going, and was Fiveish ever extracted out of Israel? But unfortunately, I couldn't get in. Maybe that's for the best, because at this point, Oorah feels less like a charity and more like a religious ARG. As far as I can tell, Oorah had been up to some shady shit for decades, and the fact that we're still talking about it in 2025 says a lot. Well, cuties, what have we learned today? We learned that a creepy mascot with dead eyes can somehow fill us with wonder and excitement, just as long as it's done via brain rot and a little Chinese magic. That a charity jingle can drive people to madness and still rake in millions, and that behind every quote-unquote nonprofit is probably a guy in New Jersey riding off a Tesla as a religious expense. We saw how Oorah turned donations into a spiritual Ponzi scheme, and how a whole community can get caught up in the gears of something that started with the intentions of helping others. But maybe the real takeaway is this: altruism is a virtue for a reason. Not everyone doing God's work is doing out of the goodness of their heart. Some people see faith and charity as the ultimate come up. But by all means, don't be afraid to help a cause you believe in. Be generous. Help people. There are a ton of great charities doing amazing things for the world. Just maybe don't give your car keys to the first singing child that shows up on TV. Because at the end of the day, this is what happens when religion meets capitalism. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Be kind, vet your charities, and as always, stay cute, cuties. Shout out to all my supporters. I love you all so much that I will now say all your names at the same time. Thank you all so much for watching. New videos every